An essay on the lady's art of cookery. Plain roasting and boiling is a material part of the housewife, when it is done to perfection. And this is roasting and boiling to perfection, when every separate order is punctually obeyed. Some love mutton or beef boiled very rare, some love it thoroughly roasted or boiled, but at the same time to be sent up full of gravy. Others choose it roasted or boiled to rags, and every master or mistress expects their roast done to their liking, and more or less roasted requires more or less time in roasting. All roast meat requires a clear, brisk fire, to be spitted level, so that the fire plays equally round the meat. I never salt beef till it is spitted, laid to the fire, and basted. Then carefully strew salt all over it, and it takes in as much as it requires. I never paper any sort of roasts for this reason. The paper is a hindrance to the roasting, which wastes time and fire, and the pins that hold it fast to the roast are as many taps after the paper is taken off, that all the gravy of the meat runs out. It. And here the lady teacher differs from me in her charge to be sure to paper the beef, and to baste it all the time it is roasting. This is a hard task to the cook. If she obeys her teacher's order, she will be half roasted herself if it is a large piece of beef. And if she bastes it all the time it roasts with the hot drippings, it will burn the beef on the outside before it is thoroughly roasted. The lady says that the loins and necks of mutton are to be papered, and the fat of the loin of veal. And if the fat of the loin of veal be papered, what will become of the lean of the back of the loin? It must be burnt before the kidney and fillet be thoroughly roasted when it is papered. Therefore I advise none to paper the fat of a loin of veal at any rate. The basting with butter at laying down, and before it is drawn, is right, but no papering. The lady bids cut the skin of a loin of pork across with a sharp penknife, but forbids cutting the skin of the chin. But my advice to all my readers is to make checker work of the chin as well as the loin of pork, lest the carver of it complain of the cook. This lady adds that the best way to roast a leg is first to parboil it. This I call a leg of pork persecuted. My way of roasted leg of pork is to salt it with common salt and saltpetre, and let it lie a week in a tray, turning it 3 times. Then to spit it and lay it down to the fire, and put a bottle of rough cider into a very clean dripping pan, and baste it with this all the time it is roasting. And when it is enough, draw it on the dish in which you send it to the table. Take off the skin for sauce. Have some boiled apples and sugar, and warm vinegar and mustard in the dish. By this way of roasting a leg of pork, it eats as delicious cold as hot, but half boiling the leg and then roasting must make a sad martyr of that venerable part of the swine. To roast a pig. Always contrive to lay the pig down warm to the fire that is newly killed and dressed. Put sage cut small into the belly of it, with a crust of bread. Then sew up the vent, spit it, lay it down to the fire, and singe all the hairs. Then dredge it with flour, and so let it roast till it is of a light brown. Then take a bunch of clean feathers and whisk all the flour clean from it. Then take a little clean beef or mutton drippings into a long brass spoon, and set it into the dripping pan till it is melted, into which dip the ends of the bunch, whisk it with the feathers, and when it is well greased, throw all over it a handful of salt. Let the fire be brisk all the time it roasts, and when it is a dark brown, dust off all the salt with the feathers. Draw it before it lose any of the gravy. This lady teacher bids dust it all over with flour, and keep flouring it all the time it is roasting. This wastes abundance of flour and time, and hinders the pig from roasting. She adds, as soon as the gravy begins to run from it, the fire is to be stirred up. basins to be set into the dripping pan to receive the gravy. Now every basin will take tribute of the gravy, and there is no gravy so preferable to its own mixed with melted butter and the brains, with a little of the sage that is in the belly of it. The illiterate maid is by her teacher's order to put 1/4 pound of butter into a coarse cloth, to rub the pig after its eyes have dropped out and gravy run from it. Now, in my opinion, this pig must be over-roasted before this operation is performed, and if the maid rub it with this coarse cloth till all the butter is consumed, what pig that ever was roasted could have a skin to endure such a rubbing bout? For by my computation it would be a full half-hour before such a quantity of butter could be consumed, as is in the coarse cloth, which would not only rub off all the young animal's skin of its back, but the unskilled hand rubbing must make execution into the flesh. So the martyred pig shows this roasting to perfection. To roast a hare. If the skin can be taken off clean, that there is none of the down, matted in the flesh of the hare, do not wash her, but keep her blood within her. Make a pudding of her liver, beef suet, thyme, sweet marjoram, parsley, shallot, an egg, a little grated bread, an anchovy cut small, mix all together with pepper, nutmeg, and salt, and put into the belly of the hare, and sew it up. Cut some rashers of bacon, and with very small wooden skewers, prick these rashers on the back and buttocks of her. Baste her with butter, and when she is enough, have plain melted butter in the dish, which the company mixes with the savory pudding. The lady teacher has prescribed for a large hare 2 quarts of milk and 1/2 pound of butter, which the hare is to soak all up, and then she will be enough. And to have a fit sauce, a pint of cream and 1/2 pound of butter must, in my opinion, take all the taste of the hare from her, and she must be a boiled hare, for I cannot think her roasted, nor can she be palatable, nor so much cream to so little flesh wholesome, but pernicious to health. To roast venison. A large haunch of venison, make paste, and roll as thin as a lid, for a family standing pie. Lay this all over the venison, but put no butter in the paste. Lay whitish brown paper all over the paste, and roast it at a brisk fire. A large haunch will take 6 hours roasting. The paste keeps the fat of the venison from wasting. Have boiled bread, water, and cinnamon. Put half the quantity of red wine, and sweeten it with sugar. Send up the sauce in a sauce basin. The venison will have gravy sufficient for the dish. To roast ducks. Be sure to pick the ducks well. Be cautious in drawing the guts. Cut not to burst them. Lay them warm to the fire with sage and onion within them. The necks, livers, and gizzards boiled with a little onion and pepper will be gravy, and red wine sauce for them.